Okay, we will get started a few seconds early, so without further ado, I will call the November 7th, 2023 council meeting to order, and we'll have a calling of council to order with Councillor Hanson reading
In
the
the,
land at the moment. Sorry.
no, it's good. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge our meeting place. The city of Flin Flon Council Chambers is situated on the ancestral lands of the Treaty 5 territory. We would like to acknowledge that we also work in partnership with the First Nations in Treaty 6 and 10 territories and the Métis Nation.
Thank you. We will now have a reading and confirming of the minutes. Councillor Slitt.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held October 17th, 2023 be adopted as received.
Seconder, Councillor Hanson. All in favor? Okay. Carried. Before we get to correspondence, I just have a reminder for everybody that on Saturday, November the 11th, at the Community Hall, Flin Flon Community Hall, there will be the Remembrance Day service. Ideally, they want people there for sure by about 10:30, 10:45 at the latest, and it'll start at about, I think, 10 to 11 is the official start time. So that will be at Community Hall, and then there will be a procession afterward following that. So that's this Saturday. Again, in recognition of Remembrance Day. So we do have one letter of correspondence. It's actually a thank you letter from myself to, I guess, myself. Anyway, it is to the City of Flin Flon. So it's from Hapnock Collegiate. So to the City of Flin Flon, on behalf of Hapnock Collegiate, its students and staff, I extend heartfelt gratitude for your outstanding support and assistance in organizing the Zone 11 Soccer Championship on September 28th and 29th. The city's contribution played a pivotal role in making this event a resounding success. The field upgrades and the generous donation of porta potties to Foster Park were invaluable. The support allowed us to provide an excellent experience for 14 boys and girls teams from across northern Manitoba to participate in the championship. There were over 200 athletes in attendance, and the city's assistance made a significant difference and ensured a smooth function for the event. So once again, thank you for your kindness and dedication to our community. Your support not only impacted the present tournament, but also left a lasting impression on all the participants and attendees. We are truly grateful for your partnership and look forward to the possibility of working together again in the future. And on a side note, it was a very successful tournament for both the Kings and the Queens, because they both came out victorious as Zone 11 champions. So thanks to the city.
Cool.
And yeah.
Very cool.
So with that, we'll move into resolutions, and Councillor Eagle, you are up first.
Thank you. Resolution 45-02. This is the check schedule. Be it resolved that the accounts in the amount of $822,604.28 be approved for payment.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Slitt.
And before we vote on that, I'll just mention that this check schedule can be reviewed by anyone online on the website.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, carried.
And the next resolution that I have is Resolution 45-03. This is Ruth Betts' yearbook donation. Be it resolved that the City of Flin Flon make a donation to the Ruth Betts Schools 2023/2024 yearbook for a total cost of $75.
Second.
Okay, seconded, Councillor Hanson. All in favor? Carried.
And my last resolution is 45-04, Half-Mount Volleyball sponsorship. Be it resolved that the City of Flin Flon make a sponsorship donation to the Half-Mount Collegiate 2023 A/AA Junior Varsity Girls Volleyball Provincials in the amount of $400 as recommended by the Finance Committee on October 16th, 2023.
Seconder, Councillor Hanson. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, Your Worship, I have bylaw 2023-12, the zoning plan amendments definition. This is the final reading. Be it resolved that the bylaw number 2023-12, being a bylaw of the City of Flin Flon to amend the City of Flin Flon zoning bylaws number 2784 be done and finally passed.
Seconder, Councillor Eagle. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, the next one is the bylaw 2023-13, the development plan amendment from industrial to commercial final reading. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2023-13 being a bylaw of the city of Flin Flon to amend Flin Flon bylaw number 37 of 83 be done and finally passed.
Seconder,
Second.
Councillor Eagle, all in favor? Carried.
Bylaw 2023-14, again, a zoning plan amendment, final reading. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2023-14 being a bylaw of the city of Flin Flon to amend the city of Flin Flon zoning bylaw number 27 of 84 be done and finally passed.
Seconded, Councillor Slick, all in favor? Carried. Councillor Slick, that brings us to your resolutions.
Bylaw 2023-16, Your Worship, zoning plan amendment, fence heights. Oh, did I do that wrong?
Nope.
No, you're good.
No, I'm not. Be it resolved that bylaw 2023-16 being a bylaw of the city of Flin Flon to amend the city of Flin Flon zoning bylaw number 27-84 be done and finally passed.
Seconder, Councillor Hanson, all in favor? Carried, and for the record, you did that just fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to keep going.
Okay. keep going.
Bylaw 2023-17, economic incentives for businesses, first reading, 45-09. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2023-17 being a bylaw of the city of Flin Flon to establish a policy for economic incentives for new businesses or existing to be known as the economic incentives for businesses bylaw be read a first time and passed on first reading.
Seconder, Councillor Eagle, all in favor? Carried.
And again, policy 4.9, policy number 8.30, attendance of unauthorized persons. Be resolved that policy number 8.30, attendance of unauthorized persons as attached hereto be approved.
Seconder, Councillor Hanson, all in favor? Go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead, all in favor. I just wanted to explain what this is.
Sure.
I just got to find it so I know.
Yes.
Sorry, folks.
No problem.
So I'm just going to read what this says. Employees and elected officials of the city of Flin Flon shall be the only persons authorized to attend and be present when necessary on property and premises owned and or operated by the city of Flin Flon at any and all times. Companies contracted or hired by the city of Flin Flon shall be authorized to attend and operate on said property and premises as necessary according to existing contractual terms or instructions of hire. Other persons and companies, as the case may be, must be authorized only in writing by the chief administrative officer specifying dates, times, and purpose in order to attend said property and premises. Unauthorized persons such as, but not limited to, non-employees, local citizens, and other members of the general public shall not be allowed by anyone at any time to attend or to be present or to interfere at any and all city of Flin Flon job sites, whether active or inactive sites. Exceptions to said property and premises shall be locations normally attended and are used by members of the public. For example, the City Hall, Whitney Forum, Centennial Public Library, Uptown Curling Rink, Flin Flon Station, and Campground, also the Joe Breen Petting Zoo, etc.
Perfect.
Okay, seconded was Councillor Hanson. Yes, all in favor?
Procedure.
Carried.
Vote on it before we speak.
Okay.
There we go. And then finally, the fire chief report, September and October 2023, 45-11. Be resolved that the fire chief's report for the months of September and October 2023 be received and filed.
Seconder, Councillor Eagle, all in favor? Carried. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Okay, that concludes our regular portion of the meeting, so we will turn it over to questions from the press.
For me, except Mike, before you leave, I want to just talk about what you just read there.
Sure.
Before you
Okay. First question up for me, regarding the funding allocation for the upcoming tournament for Hopknot, and it's just, it may just be something I'm catching here, but I noticed Councilor Litwin voted on that. I'm wondering if that's something that you're able to vote on as the principal of the school. Is that something you should have or could have recused yourself from?
He didn't,
I did vote.
he voted, but it doesn't matter because he has quorum and he's the acting mayor. So he can read it, and whether he voted on it or not, doesn't really matter because we have quorum and we passed it.
Yeah.
It's, you're right, you know, it's something for thought for the future, but I don't think we broke any real rules.
No, and I would add, from the finance committee, we had a quorum at our finance committee meeting as it mentions. So it was passed then already. So it's here basically tonight because it's public information.
But to Councillor Hanson's point, lesson learned for next time, you're probably right.
Yeah, probably. I don't think I was at that personnel and finance meeting.
No,
but
you
it was-
weren't. No, you weren't.
Because that was news to me that actually thought they wanted something else. to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
no, he didn't realize and he wasn't there, but we had a quorum at that finance meeting, so it was a go then,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
just to clarify that.
Yeah, and obviously the other 3 councilors in attendance here voted in favor of it, so like if there's quorum, it wouldn't have made much of a difference if you voted for it or not.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But, okay. I wanted also to find out a little bit more about this, and I'm going to see if I can find the exact, what was it? What was it called? Economic incentives for businesses, the bylaw 2023-17, down this 4.8 or 45-09. I want to know a little bit more about this policy because
We haven't, it's actually written out here. Do you want to read it, your worship? or-
Yes, I can read that.
well, I see how it's written
One
in
more.
here, but I wanted to hear kind
No,
of
by the way.
your words what it's going to mean for the city. Like, what's this?
I can speak to that. What this means for the
Just-
city is that this bylaw begins to provide a set of actual guidelines to see who wants to bring the business in, what kind of business it is, what will it give to the community. So you can see in Schedule A, economic incentive policy, it's an evaluation table with evaluation criteria. So it provides really a level playing field.
Well, you brought it.
I've got it. I just
Yeah,
wanted to hear
it
you all
provides-
explain
It just provides something concrete in a level playing field that finance and our CAO, our board, our council, we can look at this and actually monetize what we see here and what do we see this business doing. This would also allow us to come up with questions if we weren't sure about some of the things, to talk to the prospective business people or the corporation that might want to come in to clarify what we may not yet understand.
And I think further to that too, like, if I would say, just to speak for everybody that was elected in this cycle, we've been pretty clear that we're very in favor of working with outside stakeholders and outside entities to promote Flin Flon and to bring in business and opportunities for our citizens and potentially bring in new citizens to Flin Flon.
And existing businesses.
Yes.
Okay, so I see that Schedule A and Councilor Hanson brought it over, and I do appreciate that. I'd rather have seen it twice than not seen it all, so I get it. And I see that there's a bunch of different points here that are outlined as high community importance, medium, and low. Knowing, of course, that like we're like for Councilor Litwin, like as a teacher, it looks like I'm looking at a rubric. Like, how is this going to be adjudicated by the city? Is this going to be like a point system kind of thing, or what are we going to be looking at for how it's used?
Well, I think a point system's maybe one way to go. I think that we're gonna, when somebody's coming to you for funds for economic growth, each one's unique in their ask.
Mhm.
So, you better hit some of these targets. Because in the past, in the 80s or early 90s, there was money given to various contractors because they promised to provide oh, I'm gonna create 4 new jobs. But in fact, they didn't. That contractor lost 2 employees and that contractor lost 2 employees. And there was an argument at the time. And so, we're gonna look at everything on an individual case by, because if somebody wants to come into town and open a jewelry store, well, we'd be into that because we don't have a jewelry store. But if they want to come into town and, get a government grant to open a grocery store, well, I wouldn't do that. We've already got enough competition in that way. Now, if somebody came to town and wanted to open another lumberyard, there'd be some incentive to do that, because we've only got one. And I think competition's a good thing, unless there's too much competition, then you're just gonna drive an existing business out of business, So that's my personal thoughts, by the way. I'm not.
And I would just add that this is whether you want to call it criteria or level playing field or something that actually you can evaluate from. This is something I believe our CAO mentioned that the city of Brandon
Yes.
uses very similar to this.
Yeah.
The other good part of this, in my view, on finance is if you hit high community importance, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sections under high community importance. Obviously, you're going to stand a pretty good chance of talking about getting incentive. This also gives the city of Flin Flon in the future another level playing field to see what kind of contract that you might want to have to draw, depending on what that business incentive might be. So it's going to be useful in many ways.
So, and speaking of the incentives, and keeping in mind, of course, this is first reading, so we still need to go through another couple times to council. In terms of incentives, what are we looking at for that? Like, what form would that take for the city? Are we looking at tax breaks? Are we talking about grant funding? Like, what are we looking at?
It depends. I mean, each application or each proposition for economic incentive is going to be different than maybe the next one or the next one or the next one.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Different businesses may want to start, they may want to be having some help. Do they get that? That's where Schedule A comes in. And then see what it is they're asking for from there. If you can do it, if you should do it, or you're not.
And
Yeah, just because you meet these criteria, it doesn't mean you're gonna get incentives. The incentive might be way too much, and we'll just say.
or
we
the
can't
incentive
do it.
might be, we hook your sewer and water lines up for you at a no cost.
And I think-
Yeah.
I think
Because now you're becoming a taxpayer.
just point number 1 on there just says it's gonna be handled on a project by project basis.
Right.
So once the criteria has been evaluated, and then the decision, I guess, will be made. So.
I also wanted to know how this fits in with the city's existing economic development policy. I know the city's worked hand in hand with Creighton and with Danair Beach on different things, the FBC situation being one, the Regional Economic Development Committee before that. How does this square in with those existing policies, and how do you think this would relate for the other 2 communities? Like you mentioned, if you mentioned the example of a lumberyard, like if there's one in Flin Flon and somebody seeks to start another one, would businesses in Creighton and Danair Beach that serve the same area or the market, would they be considered in this too?
No, I don't think legally we can even do that.
No, I mean, in the regional economic development and the partnerships being developed with the other neighboring communities, that's just a different thing. We're not talking about incentives there or anything. We're talking about partnering because we're all northern neighbors.
Okay. So this is existing kind of on top of the FDC or something like that for the city?
Or beside.
Or beside, okay. All right. And yeah, I'll have some questions later on once I go over the mark for Lynn, assuming she's back this week at some point.
She'll be back on Monday,
Yeah.
Tuesday.
on Tuesday. So.
Tuesday. Okay, then she'll get some questions next week. Also wanted to know, it's been a little while since I checked in about the library. I know that there was some grant funding received for repairs on that. I believe there was a tender put out for it. I don't know if it's active or if it was closed. Where are we sitting at with the library right now in repairs?
I think the tenders came in quite a bit higher than we expected.
Okay.
And so they're reevaluating how they're going to do it.
Okay.
So nothing at this point in time. And then they talked about, oh, well, we can start in the fall and we'll just wrap the building and heat it. And I went, no. You know, we've managed to operate a year now the way we are. I think we can go until next summer to do that because the cost of doing anything outside in the wintertime is off the charts. These guys can attest to that. It's you know, your heating costs alone are crazy. So we've actually just had the heating at the library figured out for the first time in a few years. So we're really hoping to have some savings this year on our heating costs.
Okay, so long story short, there's not likely going to be any work over the winter, and it'll be
I don't think so.
until the spring at the very earliest.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you mentioned that, I don't remember exactly what the word you said was there, but reallocation or reconfiguring what the project might look like. You mentioned bids came in higher than expected. What then falls on the city to, like, if you're going to try to tender it again or something like that, what would the city end up having to do to prepare for
Increase our budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can ask Lynn about that.
that? Also wanted to, I noticed in the fire report, we're getting there were an awful lot of calls, it looks like, over the last couple of months. I wanted to know, and kind of a larger thing too, I would assume that a lot of people who were volunteering with the fire department are also working shift in Snow Lake. Has
That's
there been
right.
any sort of issue with availability?
There has been.
calls?
Yeah, there has been.
Okay.
And I think the chief is actually was telling me the other day that they're going to do a little more recruiting and hopefully get some more young fellows, you know, going in and applying. They started some new training, and so yeah, we're hoping things start turning around for the fire department. And they do get a lot of nuisance calls. They were, you know, I think these alarm companies that come in and put in all these alarms.
Mhm.
You know, they go off and the fire department shows up. And I'm to the point where, you know, if you can't phone the fire department and say it's a false alarm before they bring out 10 guys and cost the city $300, I think there should be a cost for that. And I think the alarm company should be paying that because it's just about always a false alarm. I know my neighbor, he just unhooked his because the fire department showed up twice and he didn't even know the alarm had gone off.
Because those alarms will call 911 for all services, right? You'll get an ambulance and a cop there.
Exactly.
The fire department does a lot, talking to Sergeant Burchett, you know, lift assists and things, they can call for that, and things like
Yeah.
that. From the police department or
Or the ambulance.
hot ambulance, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I spent some time with the fire. We did the exercise out at the airport, and these people, men and women, are very committed, the people we have, to what they do. And I just want to commend them for that. You know, you're right, the shift has affected them.
Seems like half of the world is gone.
Yeah, so, but they are so committed to what they do and the safety of the community that they deserve to be recognized.
And fortunately, we have reciprocal agreements with Creighton. So, you know,
We
we
might be in
always,
the same boat, though.
what's that?
We might be in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but between their fire department and our fire department, you know, there's generally enough guys. I think that's what happened on Green Street, 60 Green, when it burned at my neighbor's house.
Okay.
We had both Creighton and Flin Flon at that fire.
You mentioned an idea to try to recruit more people to cover. And of course, this situation is not on anybody in the fire department. You go on the targets. That's
Yeah.
that makes
Oh, yeah,
sense.
exactly.
It's definitely not the member's fault,
yeah.
right? It's not really anybody's. Would the city then what would that be looking at from a budgetary standpoint for recruiting? Would we be looking at an increase in funding or an extra line item in this coming year's budget for this?
No, because there's guys come and guys go, right? So there's always been a core crew of guys. I don't know how many that is. To tell you the truth, I don't know that number. But you know, some guys leave, and then you get new guys, and you train them up, and then the older guys retire, and then they get more young guys, and so it's a kind of a revolving door all the time. That's why recruiting it within a fire department has to happen 24/7, 365.
Okay.
Because we've got a couple guys on there that are getting a little longer in the tooth.
I mean, if they can do the job, they can.
Oh, hey,
Yeah, and they still are.
and they still are now.
Also wanted to check in. Just wanted to make sure I didn't. Wanted to make sure whoever was having that coughing fit had to finish before I asked the question. The unauthorized persons bylaw here mentioned in the back. What difference are we looking at versus conventional city policy before this is brought in? Like what are we looking at that's different with this?
What's your question? Sorry.
The attendance of unauthorized persons that was mentioned here, the
Right.
city policy change. Are we
There
looking at?
hasn't been a policy like this before. This is a new policy.
There's
Okay.
been signs on the door, no unauthorized persons, but there's never been an actual policy like we said.
And really, it just clarifies who's able and who's not.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of liability.
Yeah.
That the city is really trying to forego and not have to deal with at any point in the future. So anyone who wonders whether they need to be on a site or they can be on a site, they need to call the CAO here and find out.
Or if these folks are out digging a hole somewhere and somebody comes out and says, why the heck are you digging this hole here? They don't have time for that. It's dangerous
Or
as they're
stand on the edge
around.
of the hole.
And so non-authorized people aren't allowed to where these folks are working. Or to walk back into our offices, which has happened.
Okay, so then, is there any particular reason why it's being brought in now and like, because I would have figured this was already on the books.
Just
No,
housekeeping.
it's not, but it is housekeeping. And from my perspective in my other job, I think it's overdue. Liability should, pardon me, I'm gonna cough again.
I'd just say, I'll just.
Liability is always an issue. Go ahead.
No, you go if you're gonna cough, I was just gonna cover off. You go. And when you start coughing, I'll take a little.
Every year we review all the policies, and this one came up.
And we're still reviewing and we're still going
Yeah.
through more.
So one of those things is a liability, when you become aware of something, you can't just turn a blind eye or ignore it, you have to address it. So.
And let's be honest, there's been abuse to employees in this building, which can't happen. You know, it just can't by unauthorized folk. So we needed to do something.
Is that why that's being brought in now, or is
Nope.
this-
No, it's
To me,
just,
it's more about in public works,
that's right.
when holes are being done.
Okay,
But it encompasses all, it just doesn't
Yeah.
right.
Keep some goofy rubbernecker from falling down the hole, getting really up close and personal with the city's pipes.
Heck, when I drive by a hole, I turn the other way just so they don't think I'm watching.
fair enough. I ain't nobody's foreman. I'm not paying attention.
Yeah,
He's
you
doing on the job site.
Yeah, we only have one employee.
I mean, it's like, somebody's doing on the work site's their business, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But yeah, aside from anything that I'll send to Lynn later, I think that does it for me.
Okay,
Rob,
thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anna's
Okay.
asked and answered?
Yeah.